Hi guys, good morning. What I'm going to show you today is how to use aircrack-ng using it in its traditional Linux command line environment. So it's a little bit more straightforward to use it in some ways than it is on, say, a Macintosh, because we can actually just type the commands in, and most of the features, most of the applications are built into aircrack-ng and its associated binaries. So what we're going to do is just have a look through, and I'll just remind you of some of the things that are important for this type of cracking mechanism for WPA style files. Okay, let's have a look at some command line stuff first of all. Well, first of all, I'm going to show you, I'm just going to do a listing, in fact, of my directory, and show you particularly the password files that I've got in here. So I've got several password files. This is one, it's a very small one. It's one that actually I know contains a password that works with the system. This is the RockU one that was actually originally from a 2009 breach of a company called RockU, and contained originally 32 million sets of credentials. Basically, this company stored people's credentials for many different sites in the clear, so it was ridiculously stupid. At the moment, I think we've got 13 million in there from this system. This is the one that you find on the Kali distribution. And then we've got another one there, it's a little bit smaller, about 11 million lines. And that's got essentially WPA style passwords. So we could use either of those for decryption. So let me just show you a little bit about what's inside those. So if I type, say, air.text, just see what it's like at the beginning. And basically it's just large numbers of numbers, and tail give you a feeling of what it's like at the end. And that's how it ends. So you can see how it's sort of built up out of a variety of, say, standard mechanisms, and it has lots of standard phrases in and words that you might find that could have been used as dictionaries. Same thing applies to the RockU, the WPA one as well. So if we look at head for WPA, see it's mostly numbers. Yep. Tail for WPA. You can see it's basically back to phrases and words that could be used inside this type of option. So you can see how those tools work. Now, what we're going to do next? Well, first of all, I'm going to just show you how airmon ng is actually set up. And let's see if I type in a password for my password. We can see that we've actually got two wireless cards set up in this system, and the reason for that is because what we need to do is actually use a different wireless card. So this is the built-in wireless card, and this is the USB extra wireless card. I'll just show you what those look like. Can in the system. Let's see how. So let's switch across to show you what that's like. Now you can see that there are actually two of these wireless, what this wireless card is actually like. So this is just a USB style plug-in wireless card. It's a WPA card. It's a Netgear one, as it happens. The information about it is actually visible on the bottom of the metal plate here. So this tells you the serial number, etc. Now, obviously, what you need to do is find a card that will work with this chipset. So, in fact, it appears initially that this one works. and in some ways I expected it possibly would. But when I actually came to try and run things with it, I found that it wasn't basically switching into the account. And we get the list of the two cards. So we see that the two cards are here. This is the internal one, and this is the Netgear one. Actually see it says Netgear on it, so it's useful. So it's this one that we're going to make use of for the monitoring mode. So what we need to do is type in a command. In fact, what I will do, rather than type it, I will just go back and find the one that I did before. So what we have to do here is type sudo m on ng and then start to show that we want to use this one, and then the name of the wireless card. Let's do that. So it often gives you this information. It's telling you that there are other things that are actually potentially making use of it. In practice, I don't think these actually make too much difference. So we'll be able to make use of this for the system. Now you can also see that it's decided that this is a stupid name, which it is, and it's renamed it to something that's more rational, so a bit shorter as well. WLAN 0mon. So it's now renamed to ensure that we understand that it's in monitoring mode. Okay, so we've now got a wireless card in monitoring mode. What are we going to do next? Well, we can do a few things with this card. We can actually start having a look at the data. In fact, we can just do this command first of all, which will actually just show us what's actually going on in it. And we can see, as you can see, it's running through each of the channels and it's trying to find stations that are actually operating on this in this neighborhood. Now it's found two. This is here. It's found Lan B and it's found Hong Doi. Lan B is my station. It's actually found something else as well, so it's finding a few other spurious signals coming through as well. And here, when we're looking at these, we can see that I know that this MAC address is the MAC address of my router. And you can see that there's a lot of things connected to it. Each of these are the MAC addresses of the different devices that are connected to it. Now this one that ends in 2C is actually my iPad, and I'll use that a little bit later on to do some experiments with it. Now one of the problems is if we now try to do something, so the only time we can really collect data is when we disconnect and reconnect to a router. Now that's quite difficult. It's quite difficult to collect enough data to actually get that to work. So one way we can do this is to force the disconnection. For example, if I'm using my own equipment, I can simply go into my iPad and turn off the Wi-Fi card for a few minutes, and then hopefully when I turn it back on, it'll re-authenticate with the access point. But of course, if I was in sort of a bad person who is trying to break with others, then what I'd do is I have to actually peek to see which devices were connected to those servers and try to kick those off. So this is what we call de-authing. Now actually, one of the problems is if you try to do de-authing when it's doing this broad scale scan like this, basically you won't get anything because it'll say, oh, monitor mode is set at 5 and you're trying to de-authenticate at channel 8, something like this. So what we have to do is stop this monitoring at the moment. Just type Q and then start it again. But this time we'll put in a more complex command. So here we've got a more complex command, and actually I'm going to look at channel 11, which is actually being used by two routers at the moment. And I'm going to, so that's the C command here. and I'm going to write recording to a capture file. So my capture file is called test1 minus cap, and of course in front of that I have a sudo airdumpng command, and I've identified WLAN 0mon as the device I'm going to use. So let's start that running, and as we're running it we can start to see it's actually picking up some data. So we can see actually all the it's only connecting at the moment to the LAN B device, and you can see D8, 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 D8. So that's the router MAC address. These are the different devices that are connected to it. So we have, this is actually my iPad, and I will endeavour to disconnect it, but it probably won't show on this side for a little while. So let me just try with my iPad, see if I can disconnect it. I'll be surprised if we see much change for a while. So it's turned off now, 2C, so it's actually this is being disconnected. But in fact, it takes quite a long time before it actually seems to happen. It's gone now. So I'm going to turn the Wi-Fi back on, and I hope it's going to pick it up. It's come back. So we should see action with 2C in a little. Yet. Takes it a while. Now these probe signals, these are actually attempts by systems that are not associated to get through to a particular router. So I am not sure, maybe this is a misspelling, maybe an earlier version of the router. So it's basically looking for a particular device. So you can see we've not got a lot of activity on it. Let's see if we wait a minute, we start to see something coming through.
Right now, I'm using an app called AstroPad, which allows me to mirror whatever is on.
Load YouTube. It's not picking it up. So one of the things that we can do, of course, is currently my iPad is connected to it. It's not showing it at the moment. Is we can actually start to do deauthing. So if we go in here, we can use this command, which is sudo airplay ng, and in this case we've said 0, which is a command for deauthing, and we've given it the access point MAC address and the client MAC address. And we've said what is the particular ones that we're to use for that. Let's see. Oh, yes, I think 2C has come back up there. 2C back up to the system. So let's try kicking 2C. Now again, you see there's quite a lag sometimes in how the systems work. So I'm going to issue these deauth commands, and these can be quite painful actually, because if you do too many deauth commands, the device often becomes confused and will not reconnect to the Wi-Fi server, so you actually have to type in the password and set it up again. So that. Type in password. So it's sent a deauth command. You can see there's an epoll event for that, which means that we should be able to collect some data, sort of event. and we can repeat it again. See, we can a little while to reconnect. We'll make sure that my machine it says nothing. It says no internet. So it's actually still not failing to connect. If I go to its Wi-Fi connection, I think, yes, it's let me back in. So I'll see if I can use the wireless internet. But I think in fact it's actually not functioning on the wireless network. So I'd actually have to reset it for it to get it to work. So you can see that there may be signs to people that there are particular things going on in the systems as it runs. I can keep on going with this for ages, and I'd probably want to keep on going with it for a long time to collect enough data to be able to find the passwords or connection passwords. But so what I'm going to do at the moment is just stop this again. And we'll go ahead and have a look and see if we can actually find anti-password cracking. Let's see if I can the right command for doing that. Somewhere. There we go. So I think, let's see if we yeah, I think this one will work. This is actually one I did earlier because I know that you can spend quite a lot of time, capture quite a lot of devices, and it still won't run through the crack. Now, I'm using not RockU, but a very small password file. It's only got about 6 passwords in, one of which is the password that's used on the router. So we can see how it works. Let's try that. Well, you see, instant, it finds the password. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And it took it virtually no time. Of course, it was the 5th of 6 keys that was tested. So see, it was relatively straightforward. Now, of course, if we were using a bigger password file, checking file, it would take a bit longer. So let's put in RockU, and it probably won't actually manage to do it. And we'll see. Oh no, it's how to do it as well. That's true. This is possibly from an earlier test when I was doing it. So 1 hour 23 minutes, it found it. That was towards the middle of the RockU dictionary. So you can see that basically it would have taken it quite a long time to actually recover the password. So works quite well. So that's giving you an idea of how these attacks can happen. It's also possibly giving you an idea that if you suddenly find your machines are disconnecting, then perhaps there's something weird going on. And also I hope it's given you an idea about perhaps some of the things you might need to do to actually protect your wireless networks a little bit more effectively. So clearly using these sorts of hacking tools can be used to see what's going on around, to see how many other wireless networks there are going. You can look at, for example, on the setting on the screen to see the power level of those, which will give you something like a distance reading. So you can use these in many ways as part of your cyber security functionalization. So it's quite fun, quite interesting. and as you can see, the Linux tools are a little bit more developed than the versions that we can operating systems. I think Windows is probably actually pretty close to Linux, but we can do most of it in Mac, but not all of it. So, thank you very much.